So I've been asked to go back on a trip down memory lane after I've been in the business now for 6 years to really talk briefly, if I can speak briefly, about my sort of favorite 5 bookings that I've done. And it was a really, really hard question because this sounds really corny, but I actually love every booking that I do. Everyone has a different story. There's a reason behind it. There's something funny that might happen or something that you do. So it was really hard to get the top 5. And I've got them for different reasons. So number 5 in the countdown has to be a rather cheap holiday to Turkey that I did for a lady whose husband had passed away earlier in the year. She'd never done a holiday on her own. It took a lot of I'm not going to say convincing, almost counselling with her to tell her that, this is why I'm picking this. I picked a resort that was really family friendly because, I kind of figured that people would be sending their children off to kids clubs and then they'd be quite bored without their children. So they'd want to go and talk to new people. So there was that kind of aspect. She didn't want to do a singles holiday. She didn't feel she'd been single long enough. She just wanted to go away on her own. And she just had the best time. And she then came back with so many thank yous and presents for me, really just saying it was the best thing she'd ever done. Not as in the best holiday she'd ever had, but just the fact that I'd helped her choose the right place. She's since been to Mexico on her own. She's going to Crete, hopefully in the summer, on her own. And we're now talking about her next one, which is probably going to be Sri Lanka, again, on her own. So I just kind of feel that I've given Leslie a little bit of a new lease of life, really. And I've not put her off traveling. So she would, again, she's not a massive spender, but it's just that whole delight that I have in sending her on holiday. And each one, I kind of think, if it wasn't for us, then she wouldn't have had that holiday and she might still just be sitting at home, all the time on her own. So that's why she's on my list. My number 4 would be, I went to see a couple recommended from another customer. Some friends of theirs were getting married, and in her own words, good luck with this one, David. I don't know what you're going to do because they can't decide on a honeymoon. So I went round to see them, and all he wanted to do was just to go and lay on a beach, 5-star luxury. He wanted an infinity pool and a swim-up bar. That was his idea of a honeymoon. Her idea was a trekking through South America. So it was something completely different. They had quite a tidy budget. So in the end, we did both on the same trip. We sent them to Sandals for 7 nights. And then from Sandals in Jamaica, they flew to South America and they did a 56-day overland tour with, I think it was G Adventures. So, just giving people the option of, what's out there. And again, knowledge behind knowing what can be done and what can't be done, just made it easier. But to the point with that one, I was actually going to Sandals, Jamaica a week after they would have been leaving, different resort. And I arranged for Sandals. So they left their suitcases there and they had their suitcases transferred over to the hotel that I was staying at. And I brought the suitcases back for them and they left Jamaica with 2 backpacks to go trekking around South America. So, it was all just made possible, if that made sense. And again, had I have not gone, I'm not saying I'm the only travel agent that could have possibly done that, but I just felt that they got what they both wanted out of a honeymoon and they both enjoyed it. They both loved each other's kind of parts of the honeymoon. But the fact they got to do both was really good. Number 3 was my lovely now friend Jackie, who booked an overland trip from southern India to Delhi. We booked it. It involved trains and buses and camels and, the whole lot, internal flights. It was really, really complicated. But, with working with a really good supplier, Jackie and her husband got exactly what they wanted. We sorted it. It was all done. And then about 3 days after Jackie paid her deposit, the husband rang and said, right, between you and I, there's another 6 people coming and we want to meet her on her birthday as a surprise. So behind this very, very in-depth trip were 6 other people following them that were gonna, and we had to find, and I managed to find online a really tiny restaurant, actually myself and the supplier, and we booked the table in the restaurant for them. There's this big surprise and a big reveal. We had to have them in different hotels the night before, making sure that the 6 people coming up behind could get to the restaurant on time, because then they're all staying in the same hotel. And then and you know, Jackie wanted tickets. You know, there's an internal flight, which I refused to send to her because all of them were on the ticket. So there was all this, like, David, I can't understand, and I'm saying you'll get them when you're there. And so there's a little bit of an element of lying to her. But just because I didn't want her to know about these other 6 people that were there for her big surprise party. And I got a video that one of her sons took of them walking in, and their mum's face, Jackie's face, when they walked in. And her first words were, "Tell David Walker I now understand why I didn't get the tickets." And so it was just lovely to be able to do something so special for the family. And get the video afterwards was just really lovely. But it took a lot of sort of sorting out. So yeah, but I love doing that one. And again, great people, and you know, now I consider them as friends, so it's good. Number 2 is an anniversary. I'd been booking holidays for a family of mum, dad, and their 3 girls, twins, and a beautiful little girl. They like nice holidays. They nice, you know, they like their 5-star luxury and all of this. I only ever spoke to the husband when it was time for payment. And he rang me, which was very odd because they didn't owe any money for any holidays outstanding. And he said, "David, I've got a job for you." Okay. He said, "It's our 10th wedding anniversary and she'll kill me if I don't sort out a holiday for her. She's expecting a holiday." Great. He said, "However, it's also my holiday, so I don't want to know where we're going. I want it to be a surprise for me." He said, "So you've got a 10 grand budget." He said, "Here's the dates. Go and book something and tell us where we're going the day before we go." Okay. So it was like, oh, you know, I'd never had a brief like that before, whereas neither of them knew that. I've done surprise holidays, but always one person's known, and I've always been able to check with one person if the flight time worked, if the hotel was right, and the room was right, and all of this. He just said 10 grand, and it was, you know, £10,000 for, I think, 4 nights that he did, 4 or 5 nights. But so I spoke to her in different conversations and managed to wean out where she'd really like to go without the children, and all of this kind of stuff, because it was all about her. And, you know, talking to him, it's always about her. But this trip, it was his anniversary as much as it was hers. And I went round to meet them with the tickets, and that's the first time I'd met either of them. So it was all a bit scary. But we sent them on a week-long weekend in Dubai, and I lived in Dubai for 16 years, so I know Dubai really well. I know the hotels really well, so I had every confidence. But normally, with the majority of hotels, a lot of people now do say to me, "David, if you like it, it's fine." But this, you know, they didn't know anything. They knew absolutely nothing. So yeah, and it worked really well, and they had an amazing time, so that was good. I think my all-time favorite is also one of the biggest bookings I've ever done, and that was a family, mum, dad, and their twin boys around South America for 6 weeks. It was truly, truly 5-star. I'd done a trip about 5 years ago, which I called Posh Peru, where we did Machu Picchu, and we stayed in incredible hotels with butlers and just pure luxury. And I think a lot of people think South America as backpacking. It's so not. There's uber luxury out there. And they'd got a sabbatical, mum and dad and their kids. The kids, it was the summer holidays, and they said, "We're thinking of Asia or South America." I'm like, South America, without question. Because I know South America really well, but also the time of the year. And again, knowing the family, they've been booking with me for quite a while. And I know them quite well. I know what experiences they want and everything. And I also know there's a lot of pure luxury out there. And it was just a phenomenal trip. And potentially, I think they probably did 7 or 8 countries. They wanted to do 6 weeks initially in Costa Rica, and I said, it's too long. Do South America. And then, you know, we went through the itinerary and they said, oh, and they saw the price and it was well over £100,000. And they were like, it's not as bad as we thought. I said, right, let's add on 10 days in South America, in Costa Rica. So we then added on the extra time as well. I think they expected some elements to go wrong. Nothing went wrong. Again, it's about choosing the right supplier, who were just brilliant. And they were really good to the point where we arranged them to go to a football match and have, you know, with a supporter. So I didn't want them going to the football on their own. I'd been to the stadium years and years ago, albeit to watch Carlos Santana in Rio, but I knew that it wouldn't be safe to take two, at the time, 12-year-old boys, but they desperately wanted to go. So I spoke to the supplier, who arranged a tour guide who supported the team that the boys liked, picked them up from the hotel to take them to the stadium, have lunch and take them back. So because we kind of got the football team that they liked, I then arranged, or I got them to arrange football shirts for the boys to be, so they could wear them at the match and everything. That went down an absolute storm. They completely loved that. So then I got a different set of football shirts in every country they went to. So that was waiting on the beds. And so they would walk, you know, and I was getting photographs of the boys in their T-shirts going, that David Walker's a legend, and all of this kind of stuff. And they're 12 years old. But the irony of it, coming back now, mum and dad have put those football shirts in a big long frame, which are in their bedrooms. And that was 2 years ago. And they said those football shirts will probably be the best souvenir they've ever had from a holiday. But also they will probably, because there's a real big collection of them, but they will go everywhere with them. And that's a great reminder of, you know, their real last big trip as a family. So yeah, and we were with them every step of the way. There was one time they were on a plane, it was going to be delayed, and they were worried about the transfer. No problem, sorted. You know, we were one step ahead all the time. We knew they were delayed. And I, you know, try whereas I can to keep in touch with people while they're away, especially on such a big trip where potentially, because there were so many logistics in this one. So I did often keep in touch with them more often than I would do on someone on a package holiday. Because again, if someone's away and we can put things right, then it makes the next bit good. So speaking to them, and one of the boys had left his baseball cap on a private car transfer that we'd sorted for them, and he was having a strop at the time. So again, I rang the supplier, told them, they found the baseball cap, flew it over, or posted it over by airmail to the next hotel. I think it was in Chile. They walked into the hotel room, and not only was the football kit of the Chilean football team, but the baseball cap that he'd lost in Argentina. So, you know, and they were like, oh my God, that's amazing. And it was amazing, but again, through the supplier and just through thinking ahead, really. And, you know, I've got customers for life there because that was such a successful trip for them. And they stayed in some, and I learned a lot about the high-end luxury of South America, even though I'd experienced it in a couple of countries, but they went to so many. And really experienced some proper, you know, best. These guys have stayed all over the world in some incredible hotels, but two of them on that trip were their favourites they've ever stayed in. So lots of brownie points for David, to the point where they've said they want to go back to two of them on their own without the kids, and just have, you know, one of them was in Mendoza, unbelievable hotel, and the other one's in Peru, again, just incredible. So yeah. I've made some lasting memories. Traveling is about memories, and all 4 or 5 of those trips, there's some really special memories, not only for the clients on the holidays, but for me booking them as well.